The night Amelia Hart went into labor, snow covered Chicago like a white funeral sheet. It was supposed to be the night her husband held her hand, whispered courage into her ear, and waited beside her for the first cry of their child. Instead, she sat alone on the bathroom floor, one hand gripping the sink, the other pressed against her swollen belly as pain tore through her body in waves. Her phone lay on the tiles, the screen smeared with water from her shaking fingers. She called Derek for the 7th time. Loud music exploded through the speaker, mixed with laughter, glasses clinking, and the soft, arrogant voice of his mother somewhere in the background. There was a pause. Then he sighed. Not with fear, not with concern, but with irritation. "Are you serious right now?" he snapped. "I told you tonight was important. My mother's foundation gala is happening on the yacht. Do not ruin this for me." Amelia bent forward as another contraction hit. Her forehead struck the cabinet. "I can't stand. I think my water broke." "Then call an ambulance." "The storm blocked the street. I tried. No one is coming fast enough." Derek's voice turned cold enough to match the snow outside. "Then crawl if you have to. Stop making a scene. There are more important things tonight than you." For several seconds, Amelia could not breathe. Pain was one thing, betrayal was another. Pain attacked the body. Betrayal walked straight into the soul and locked the door behind it. That was the moment her marriage died. Not in court, not with papers, but on a bathroom floor, beneath fluorescent light, while her husband chose champagne over the birth of his child. Amelia forced herself to move. She wrapped a coat around her shoulders, shoved her feet into slippers, and staggered down the hallway. Every step felt like glass cutting through bone. Outside, the wind screamed through the narrow street. Snow struck her face like small stones. The neighborhood was silent. Cars were buried. Windows glowed warmly behind curtains, but no one heard her. She tried to shout. Only a broken whisper came out. She collapsed beside the iron gate of an old mansion that had been empty for years. Her hand fell against her belly. "Stay with me," she whispered to the child inside her. "Please, stay with me." 3 black cars stopped in front of the gate. A tall, elderly man stepped out of the middle vehicle, wearing a dark overcoat and a face carved by power and grief. He had been on his way to inspect the abandoned mansion, the last property connected to the daughter he had lost 22 years ago. "Get a doctor on the line," he shouted to his driver. "Now!" Amelia barely opened her eyes. The man knelt in the snow, lifting her head with surprising gentleness. His gaze dropped to the small silver locket hanging from her neck. His entire body froze. Inside the locket was a tiny blue sapphire shaped like a tear. Only one child in the world had owned that necklace. His daughter. "Amelia?" His voice cracked. "My God, Amelia." She did not understand. She only heard the panic in a stranger's voice before darkness swallowed her. At Hawthorne Memorial, the hospital that bore his family name, Victor Hawthorne turned the entire maternity wing into a command center. Surgeons, neonatal specialists, anesthesiologists, nurses, and security moved under his orders. No one questioned him. Men like Victor did not raise their voice twice. Outside the delivery room, his assistant, Marcus Vale, stood with a tablet, while Victor paced like a wounded lion. Marcus nodded. "Derek Cole, Senior Finance Director at Hawthorne Capital, 34, married to Amelia Hart Cole for 4 years." Marcus dialed. The phone rang once, then went to voicemail. He tried again. This time, the call was rejected. A moment later, Marcus looked up. He blocked the number. Victor's face did not change, and that made the air colder. "A man who ignores a dying wife," Victor said softly, "has already written his confession." On Lake Michigan, Derek Cole raised a glass of champagne while the yacht cut through black water. His mother, Margaret, sat beside him in diamonds she could not afford and pride she had never earned. Across from them, Selena Voss crossed her legs beneath a silver dress, smiling at Derek like she already owned him. Everyone at the table knew Selena was more than a business consultant. Nobody cared. They cared about access, money, invitations, and the illusion of class. Margaret tapped Derek's hand. "You did the right thing. Amelia always chooses the worst possible time to act helpless." Derek laughed. "She wanted attention. Pregnant women turn dramatic near the end." Selena leaned closer. "You deserve a woman who supports your future, not someone who drags you back to a tiny house every time she panics." Derek looked out at the glittering skyline. "After tomorrow, everything changes. Victor Hawthorne is announcing the next chief financial officer. It is mine. His uncle lifted a glass. To Derek, the future king of Hawthorne Capital. They toasted. A fool always celebrates loudest right before the floor opens beneath him. At 2:17 a.m., Amelia's daughter was born. The baby's cry rang through the delivery room like a bell calling life back from death. Amelia heard it once, smiled through tears, and lost consciousness. Victor stood behind the glass, one hand pressed to his mouth. He had missed his daughter's childhood. He had missed her first steps, first words, first heartbreak, first birthday wishes. But he would not miss one more second of her life. By dawn, the DNA test confirmed what his heart already knew. Amelia Hartcole was Amelia Hawthorne, the only child of Victor Hawthorne, kidnapped during a charity event 22 years earlier and hidden through forged adoption records. When Amelia woke, sunlight poured over cream walls and fresh white roses. A nurse adjusted the blanket around a sleeping baby girl in a crystal bassinet. Amelia stiffened. "Where am I?" "You are safe," he said. "My baby?" "Perfect, strong, beautiful." Tears slipped down her temples. "Who are you?" Victor took the locket from a velvet tray and opened it. Inside was a miniature photograph of a woman Amelia had never seen, yet somehow recognized in the shape of her own eyes. "My name is Victor Hawthorne," he said, "and I have spent 22 years looking for my daughter." "No," she whispered. "I was told my parents abandoned me." Victor's eyes filled. "They lied. Your mother died believing you were still alive. I promised her I would find you, even if it took the rest of my life." A lifetime of loneliness cracked inside Amelia. She covered her mouth, but the sob escaped anyway. Victor stood slowly, afraid to frighten her, but Amelia reached for him first. For the first time in her life, Amelia cried like a child who finally had someone strong enough to carry the pain. Marcus opened the file. Derek Cole has maintained a 2-year affair with Selena Voss. He used company cards for hotels, jewelry, travel, and private yacht expenses. We also found manipulated vendor payments, false consulting contracts, and offshore transfers. There is more, Marcus continued. He drafted a post-birth custody agreement. His plan was to pressure Amelia while she recovered, declare her mentally unstable, and give his mother residential control of the child. Some men cheat because they are weak. Some men steal because they are greedy. Derek had done both, then aimed at a newborn. "Do not arrest him yet," he said. "Invite him. Yes, let him arrive dressed for a crown." By the time Derek returned from the yacht, humiliation had already begun stalking him. His gold card had declined at the marina. His platinum card failed at the parking garage. 2 bank accounts showed frozen. He blamed the weather, the servers, and Amelia's bad luck. Amelia's clothes were gone. Her toothbrush was gone. The nursery was empty, except for a folded blanket and the hospital bag she had never been able to carry. On the kitchen table lay a black envelope sealed with the Hawthorne crest. "Mr. Derek Cole, you are requested to appear tomorrow at 9 a.m. at Hawthorne Tower, executive floor, regarding matters of immediate importance to your future." "Mom!" he shouted. Margaret rushed in, still wearing her gala jewelry. Derek waved the letter in her face. "It's happening. Victor Hawthorne wants to meet me privately. This is the promotion." Margaret clapped both hands over her mouth. "My son, CFO of Hawthorne Capital," Derek grinned. "Amelia leaving actually saved me a headache. Once I get the title, I will deal with her," Margaret smirked. "Make sure she signs away custody before she crawls back." Neither of them noticed the small red recording light blinking inside the smoke detector above the kitchen doorway. The next morning, Derek arrived at Hawthorne Tower in his finest navy suit. Margaret insisted on coming. Selena arrived separately, pretending it was coincidence, dressed like a woman auditioning to become wealthy. Security escorted all 3 to the private elevator. Derek mistook silence for respect. Margaret mistook marble for welcome. Selena mistook proximity for power. At the end of the hall stood 2 massive doors. Derek adjusted his tie. "Watch and learn," he whispered. Inside, the boardroom was colder than a courtroom. Victor Hawthorne stood at the head of the table. Marcus stood near a screen. 6 lawyers sat with open files. 2 security officers waited by the wall. There was no champagne. There was no contract. There was only a white bassinet beside Victor's chair. Derek smiled anyway, because arrogance is blind until the knife touches bone. Mr. Hawthorne, he said, stepping forward. It is an honor. Victor did not shake his hand. She wore a white tailored suit, her hair pulled back, her face pale from childbirth but sharper than he had ever seen it. She looked calm. Not tired, not broken, calm like a storm that had already chosen where to strike. Margaret gasped. What is she doing here? Derek recovered first. Amelia, have you lost your mind? This is a private corporate meeting. Apologize and leave before you embarrass me. Victor stepped beside her. Mr. Cole, you will address my daughter with respect. Derek blinked. Your what? My daughter, Victor repeated. Amelia Hawthorne, my only heir. The child your wife gave birth to last night is my granddaughter. Derek stared at Amelia, then at Victor, then at the bassinet. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. The orphan he had mocked, the wife he had abandoned, the woman he planned to discard, was the heir to the empire he had spent his life crawling toward. A man can survive poverty. He can survive scandal. But realizing he threw away a kingdom by choice can kill him while he is still standing. First came the audio recording. Derek's own voice filled the boardroom. Then crawl if you have to. Stop making a scene. There are more important things tonight than you. Then photographs appeared. Derek kissing Selena on the yacht balcony. Derek buying her sapphire earrings. Derek entering hotels with her on nights he claimed board meetings ran late. The lawyers slid documents across the table. Marcus spoke clearly. We have evidence of marital abandonment, financial abuse, corporate fraud, misuse of company funds, forged vendor invoices, offshore transfers, and attempted coercion regarding custody of a newborn. Amelia finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, but it cut cleaner than shouting. No, Derek. A misunderstanding is forgetting milk. You left your wife in labor in a snowstorm. Margaret suddenly stepped forward, changing tactics with the speed of a snake. Amelia, sweetheart, families fight. Derek was under pressure. You know men make mistakes. Think of the baby. Amelia turned to her. I did think of the baby. That is why you will never touch her. Victor's voice dropped. You are the woman who called my daughter useless while she was bleeding in the snow. Derek lunged toward Amelia, but security caught him before he crossed 3 feet. Panic finally broke through his skin. Sweat darkened his collar. Amelia, listen to me, he pleaded. I was scared. I said terrible things, but I love you. We can start over. Your father can help us. We can be a real family now. For years, she had apologized just to keep peace. She had swallowed insults to avoid conflict. She had called cruelty, stress, control protection, and neglect marriage. But a woman who survives the night alone does not wake up begging for the people who left her there. You do not love me, she said. You loved how small I made myself so you could feel tall. Derek Cole, effective immediately. Your employment at Hawthorne Capital is terminated for cause. Your assets connected to criminal financial activity are frozen. Civil claims are being filed today. Criminal referrals will follow. Your industry license will be suspended pending investigation. The attorney continued. Regarding the marriage, Mrs. Amelia Hawthorne Cole has filed for emergency divorce, full custody, protective orders, and restriction of contact. Given the recorded abandonment during childbirth and evidence of planned custody coercion, the court has already granted temporary emergency relief. Margaret began sobbing. No, please. We need money. Derek owes people. Dangerous people. Amelia's eyes narrowed. So the diamonds were not gifts. They were borrowed lies. Margaret dropped to her knees. Help me. I was wrong. I said awful things, but I am old. They will hurt me. Amelia remembered the words spoken on the yacht, the sneers, the years of being told she was lucky anyone married her. She looked down at Margaret and said, Stop making a scene. There are more important things right now than you. Derek struggled against the guards. You can't do this to me. Victor stepped close. No, Mr. Cole, you did this. We are only delivering the receipt. Security dragged Derek, Margaret, and Selena toward the doors. Selena cried that she knew nothing. Margaret begged. Derek shouted Amelia's name until the doors closed and his voice vanished. Victor gently lifted the baby from the bassinet and brought her over. She needs a name. Hope, she whispered, because she came on the night everything else died. For 3 weeks, Amelia healed inside the Hawthorne estate. She learned the size of her father's world slowly. Homes, companies, foundations, enemies, secrets. Victor did not push her. He let her choose when to ask questions. Derek's ruin spread quickly. News outlets reported his termination. Financial regulators opened inquiries. Creditors circled. His friends vanished. Selena attempted to sell the jewelry he had bought her, only to discover the pieces were evidence and already flagged. Margaret's lenders found her within days. Yet Amelia did not watch the collapse with joy. Revenge was not happiness. It was surgery, necessary, bloody, and never as clean as people imagine. One evening, Victor found her in the library, holding the silver locket. "Tell me about the night I disappeared," she said. He sat across from her. "Your mother hosted a children's benefit at the old Westbrook mansion. There was a fire alarm. Everyone ran. In the confusion, you vanished. We believed it was a kidnapping, but no ransom ever came. Who took me? We never proved it." Amelia opened the locket. "But you suspect someone." Victor looked toward the dark windows. "I suspected many people. Business rivals, political enemies, former employees." Marcus entered before he could continue. His usually calm face carried something sharper. "Sir," he said, "you need to see this." He placed a faded photograph on the desk. Amelia leaned forward. The picture showed the Westbrook mansion 22 years ago. Smoke blurred the background. A young woman in a nurse's coat carried a crying little girl toward a black car. Beside the car stood a younger Margaret Cole. Amelia's blood went cold. Victor stood so fast his chair struck the wall. Marcus placed a second document beside the photo. "We found an old payment record. The account receiving money after Amelia vanished was opened under a false name. But the guarantor signature matches Margaret's maiden name." The library fell silent. Amelia looked at her father. "Are you telling me my mother-in-law knew who I was before I married Derek?" Marcus did not answer immediately. That was answer enough. Then his phone buzzed. He read the message, and his face tightened. "Margaret has disappeared from police transport." Victor's expression turned deadly. Amelia looked down at her sleeping daughter in the bassinet beside her chair. Then she looked at the photograph again, at the woman carrying the little girl into the dark. The past had not come back to explain itself. It had come back armed. Amelia closed the locket in her palm and whispered, "Find her before I do."